Good morning, friends. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all over online. You can also access my Facebook page, which is called Upcycle with Decoupage, as well as my website if you need some supplies. And here is what we'll be working on for today. I'm going to show you 3 different techniques for how to decoupage, because you may prefer one over the other, and you also may not be aware that there are a couple of other different techniques, or a few different techniques out there. For this first method, we're going to add a coat of Mod Podge, it doesn't matter whether it's gloss or matte, over the whole surface of our project and put it aside to dry. And while this was drying, I wanted to cut out some napkins to frame this transfer, and I'm going to cut out select flowers to go in areas on the box. You don't want to separate your napkin yet. It's much easier to cut when the napkin is still 3-ply. Now you can also use a wet paintbrush. You want to make sure it's pointed to tear away those images. This works best when you've got a background color that matches the background of your napkin. Once you've got your napkins torn, you want to take, this is a craft iron, and you want to take a craft iron and a piece of parchment paper. It's got to be parchment paper. Separate your napkin, lay it down over the dry decoupage glue, place your parchment paper over it, and use your craft iron to iron the piece down. You can also use a travel iron, and you can use your regular iron as long as you put it to a cotton setting. And you always want to make sure that you use this parchment paper, and you can reuse the parchment paper over and over again. It can take high heat. This method of decoupage works best on flat surfaces. You also obviously would never want to use this method on plastic, but for wood, for glass, cardboard, metal, if you've got a flat surface, you can do all of these with this method. And when you're all done, you want to take your decoupage glue, by the way, sand off any of the excess edges, and just coat the whole surface with decoupage glue. Once the decoupage glue has dried, you always want to add a top coat or a varnish. I'm going with a matte varnish here because I'm going for an older vintage look on this box. And put it aside to dry, and you're all done with that piece. Now for our second method, I took a metal watering can that was painted with chalk paint and a fan brush and a little cup of water. And I had already torn out or cut out my napkins, and I dipped the fan brush in a little bit of water and then decoupage glue, and then applied it over the napkins. So rather than put the decoupage glue down, then the napkin, I put the napkin down, then the decoupage glue. Make sure your napkins are separated, and you want to be careful with this method because if you have a heavy hand like I do, it's very easy to tear the napkins. They can get folded like I did right there. You can just cut around certain areas like this. But this is a very nice method when you're working in intricate spots or places that have a lot of ridges, like metal cans. Most tin cans have a lot of ridges in them. I then placed this in the oven, and you don't have to do this, but it is a big help to remove even more wrinkles. Inside the oven on a baking sheet, again with my parchment paper, and set the oven to 170. And when the oven reached 170, I turned it off and let my piece sit in the oven for 20 minutes. Now I let this cool off and then I covered the whole surface, even the areas where I did not use decoupage. I covered the whole surface with decoupage glue. Once the decoupage glue dried, I took some Mod Podge high gloss spray, and then I added mica and glitter to the wet spray so that this had a nice shine to it. There's also a link below to my website so that you can get all of these supplies or some of them, because mica is not that easy to find in craft stores. And once it's dry, here's how our completed picture looked out in the sunlight. I had to bring it out in the sun so that you could appreciate all of the glitter and blingy things I put on here. Now for our last and possibly the most popular method, I'm going to show you how to decoupage using Saran wrap. I did cut these napkins out. You can see how it has a much cleaner line. And what you'll do is apply decoupage glue down to the surface. Then you will place your image over top of the surface. Once you place your image down, just very gently lay it down. You can pat it in a couple of areas very lightly. Take your plastic wrap. You should probably have a piece already out and ready. Pull it tightly and then down hard over this. You want to pull it tightly around that bottle and the surface, and you want to press everything down. Nothing will stick to the Saran wrap. You can pull the Saran wrap away and this napkin is adhered beautifully with minimal, little or no wrinkles. Now this method works really well when you're working on curved surfaces. It's really good for baskets. And again, just make sure you pat it down lightly, take the Saran wrap and smooth everything out. You have to throw away each piece of Saran wrap every time you're done using it. Don't reuse it or you will pull up your work. Once you're all done, you'll want to add a coat of decoupage glue over the whole bottle and put that aside to dry. Now once that's dry, I'm going to use something called triple thick. You have got to use a brush for this, an acrylic brush as opposed to a sponge brush. Going to cover the whole surface, put that aside to dry, and then I'm adding some embellishments. Oh my. And I'll try to include these on my website. Sometimes I can find them, sometimes I can't. And if you'd like, you can reuse this bottle. I took a drawer pull, and this is a glass drawer pull. By the way, I put a little bit of ribbon, organza ribbon on here. And then I took a glass drawer pull that I found in Hobby Lobby, where you can get them pretty inexpensively. And I put it inside a cork to put it inside the bottle so that I could reuse the bottle when I wanted to. And here's how our completed projects look. And on the wood, I used the one method where we did the ironing. And on the glass, we used the Saran wrap method and some embellishments. And on the metal can that we painted with chalk paint, we used the fan brush technique. And once again, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I'll try and help you out. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. That really helps me to move forward. And Upcycle with Decoupage is on Facebook. Links below or to my website for any of the supplies you may need. And don't forget to go on over to my Facebook page, Upcycle with Decoupage. If you click like and follow, you'll be notified every week when I put a new video out. And thanks again, guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.